So we got Tiff and Leon Chen on here. It's actually Tiffany, but I feel like I should call you Tiff.
Most people do. So
Okay.
feel free.
I call her
Okay,
Tiff.
so great. I want to start off with this because we've heard so much about business during the pandemic, and I can only imagine what your business has done in the pandemic, but I want you to tell us, how has it been?
Well, it's been a wild ride,
Yes.
like anyone.
We when the pandemic first started, like anybody, we weren't sure, and everyone kind of froze for a minute there, and then all of a sudden we just started getting more and more orders, and it just built up, and it was like having our busiest day of the year every single day for those shutdown periods.
For everybody that was missing birthdays, anniversaries, couldn't go see their grandparents, Mother's Day. You have to remember about how many occasions we all missed. And people were just sending cookies, and even for occasions or for just connection. And so we saw a ton of that. We scrambled to we hired hundreds of people to keep up with that initial boost of demand.
So this has been explosive for you all, hasn't it?
It was. We know that we were very fortunate. There's a lot of awesome businesses that we know of, our friends own and run, that just by the sheer luck of what they did it was difficult for them in other areas. So we were definitely fortunate. We were fortunate to get to see what we call the good in people. There's just so much divisiveness out there, but at the end of the day, every single day we got to see orders that showed love, appreciation, comfort, and that connection Tiff was mentioning.
And we needed all of those things during the pandemic, which we're still in. And I guess a lot of people may not have even just been sending them to other people, but maybe treating themselves, because it's like so many other things had fallen away, and life got so hard for us all.
Oh, absolutely. We saw a big boost in self-consumption, and people, especially nights and weekends, just needing that comfort snack. I mean, I know we needed those kind of things as well on a personal level. So yeah, you saw a ton of that.
Been there and done that. And what a business model to have at that time, to already have, delivery be the key to your success. And I mean, that just blew up, and you all already had a whole system for that. I'm curious, during all of this though, obviously you had to make adjustments along the way. Did you learn something new after being in business for so many years here? Did you learn something new that you thought, oh yeah, this is a huge lesson going forward?
Yeah, I feel like we learned a ton.
We learned a lot about communication.
That's what I was going to say too. Because there was so much uncertainty, and honestly, there still is, but especially in the beginning with our team, we needed to communicate with them every day. Here's what we're seeing. Here's what we're going to do. And then it would even be the next day. Okay, now we're going to do this, but they needed to hear that every single day. And sometimes people were even leaning on our team to understand safety protocols, because we were putting in safety protocols, and it was giving them comfort to know, okay, we've got a plan. And they maybe weren't hearing that from everywhere, and they wanted to hear it from us too.
And it was one of those things where it was like, look, we may be wrong about this or that, or here's our plan, and it may or may not work, but this is our plan, and this is why we want this to be our plan. And I think that was comforting, because there's so much unknown during the pandemic in all facets of life. And so it was comforting to at least have someone communicating with you every single day.
All right. So I already think of you all as sort of a case study, because, you've built this really successful business, and you're married and you work together. And we know that can be challenging just in normal times. Did that get harder during the pandemic? Because so many people were like, oh my God, I'm spending so much time with this spouse that I'm not accustomed to doing this.
Well, we were lucky because we are accustomed to it. So in terms of a personal, us spending time together, that never changed. So it wasn't anything that we had to get used to. We had a common goal, as we always have. And so for us, no, I don't think that was any harder. I think the pressures of life, were there like they are for everybody, but because we're on the same team and moving towards the same things, that part really wasn't a huge change for us.
But early on, we're not going to lie, there's a lot of learnings in working with your spouse and starting a business or running a business with your spouse that we had to work through years and years ago.
Y'all were ahead of the curve on this one. So there's been this big spirit of entrepreneurship here in these past couple of years. A lot of people opting to do something different, maybe follow some passion in their life. It's great to go do, what you care about and what you feel, passionate about. Do you have advice for people, even if it's just one nugget of advice right now, for people who are starting a business or thinking of starting a business?
Yeah, I think usually our biggest negative advice is one, be passionate about what you're doing. If you want to do it and you want to be successful at it, do what you can to make that the primary focus in your life and have the other things be kind of second to that so that you can really put focus on it. And two, never underestimate hard work. It's going to be hard work and it's something that you can control. You can work as hard as you're able, and that will really pay off.
I want to ask you this because you've got a new book that's coming out. It's called It's Not Just Cookies, Stories and Recipes from the Tiff's Treats Kitchen. And you go into it in this book about, starting up the business, the highs, the lows. Tell people about how this started for people who don't know. It's an extraordinary story.
Yeah, well, it's extraordinary because it started because this one, my lovely wife now, but she stood me up on a date.
Well,
Nice.
I did, but I also apologized with a batch of cookies, and it was something that I did as a hobby. So I made this batch of cookies, drove it over to his house, and they just so happened to still be warm when I got there. And he kind of had he had the very first warm cookie moment. That's what we call it when people experience this connection between two people over a warm cookie. And he had our very first one.
So it really was love at first bite, kind of.
I guess you could say that, for me at least.
And then you started this business. I mean, obviously you knew you were onto something. You had a good product there, but you start this business. You're in a college apartment. You've got almost no money in your pocket, and you had the audacity to go, I'm going to start a business here.
Yeah, well, it wasn't wise.
Yeah, there's something to be said about, we were 19-year-old sophomores in college.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something to be said about being naive. We call it young and dumb and naive, and we just didn't know what we didn't know. And that actually served a really great purpose for us because we just kind of barreled through everything. Looking back on it, now we are kind of like, wow, I can't believe we actually tried that or did that, or I can't believe we thought we could pull it off.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine too, though, that there's a lesson in that too, that, a lot of us tend to get comfortable, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there and maybe take a risk and something that really makes you uncomfortable.
The reward is in the risk. You have to have risk if you want any reward.
Yeah, we're a good pair because I'm a little more hesitant when it comes to risk, but he pushes and then
we balance each other out.
We balance.
You kind of need that. It's good to have that. So you talk about highs and lows in the book as well. What would you say, looking back over the years, stands out as kind of a low for you as you've been going through the process of building this business?
We've had many, and a lot of them are in the book. What do you think? Flood, probably?
I'm thinking when we lost our lease of our first location. The reason that sticks out to me as a low is, of any of the times, there are highs and lows throughout our entire history. But this was the most likely time we were going to go out of business. And it wasn't for anything we did. It was that we had lost our lease. We didn't have enough money to lease another space. No landlord in their right mind would have extended us terms on a lease. And we had just had nowhere to go. We ended up pushing forward and having a great outcome and finding that unbelievable landlord who would take a chance on us, and finding a converted house and turning that into a kitchen as opposed to a normal restaurant space. So it worked out for us. But when we lost that lease and I think we had like 45 days to get out, that would be one of my lowest.
That's a real gut punch when you're trying to run a business. What stands out to you as one of the, the highest highs as you've gone through this?
Oh, there's so many highs. A lot of the highs are the warm moments we get to see from our customers. We have our first 4 delivery drivers we've ever hired. They're all with the company today in
amazing
management positions. 3 had left and gotten jobs and graduated college and then came back. 1 just stayed the whole time. And so for us, it's the things like that, to be able to build something, that an industry that didn't exist when we started, with people we care about. And for us, that's kind of like a real high to always think on that.
I want to ask, so you all are from the DFW area originally? And of course, you started everything though down in Austin, but you still have these roots here that you can't shake. I know that Dirk Nowitzki has been a big investor in the company, and am I right? Former Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlins was part of a group too that was a big investor. So you definitely have that DFW tie going on.
Oh, I'm certain that we have a huge contingent of investors, including Dirk and Mayor Mike. who are investors. Yes, we're from the DFW area, Richardson, Berkner.
Well, when I made those apology cookies, we were actually in Dallas at the time. So while technically we started out of his Austin College apartment, the idea was hatched in Richardson.
I did
And I
not
think
know that.
DFW, we have like 24 locations. It's our biggest market. And so we have more stores in the DFW area than we do in any other city.
I didn't know that the first batch of Tiff's Treats cookies, though, were made in an oven right here.
That's right. Well, I was at my mom's house because we were on winter break from
That is
college.
amazing. That is really cool. And so, when we talk about investors, I think that there are people out there who have, sunk their teeth into it and had that warm moment that you're talking about, and they thought, I would invest in this. Is that ever, do you think, maybe going to happen, stock down the road at some point, perhaps?
Oh, boy.
We'll see. I mean, all options are open for sure. You're talking about public company stock.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would be something that we would definitely evaluate when the time comes.
How you guys, this business is now worth what, $500 million, and you're in how many states now?
Let's see, 4 or 5.
Five states.
And
with
opening
a couple more.
with ambitions to take on all 50, right? At some point.
Absolutely. There's no reason we can't have warm cookie delivery in every state.
Right. We'll do it responsibly though. We've never defined our success by number of locations. It really is about the customer experience for us. And so we'll open locations as long as we can keep the brand intact and the customer service there.
I think it's amazing that you mentioned that, because I've thought about that before. And I always think about that in terms of a really successful company. And I have noticed that your consistency is always there. If I'm eating it in one city versus eating it in another city, or ordering from a different place, somehow you're able to keep that consistency in there. And that's hard to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That is a huge goal for us. So I'm really glad and appreciate you saying that. Absolutely, it's not easy to do. That was one of the learnings that we had early on when we were splintering off into multiple locations. The very second location we ever did was in downtown Dallas, and we didn't know what we were doing in terms of managing 2 separate locations. And the consistency went way off.
Remember, the cookies got huge, like just giant.
Yeah, they got big. So that staff turned their ovens up. Now they were bigger and they were darker and they were crunchier. And we just, upon one visit, and we were going there frequently, but upon one visit, we were like, okay, we need to start again. And it was communication. And that was the thing, is we weren't communicating enough. We weren't communicating face to face, and we weren't communicating frequently and effectively. And so and you got to put it as the forefront, that we want consistency. It's got to be important.
That's very interesting too, that you, and I think that's another takeaway for people who are going into business for themselves, is you've got to watch that product. I mean, you've got to have eyes on it, even if it's in another city. You're visiting and checking it out and making sure. So you all are still, I mean, I know that you're so sprawling right now, and this company is huge now. How hands-on are you still all of these years in?
Probably more than our team would like. we're here every day. I mean, we are very much still in it.
It just depends on what, when it comes to the look and feel of the brand, and every single thing we sell, it has to go through Tiff, right? Her name's on the sign. She's got to approve it. They probably don't want us in the stores at this point. We have some operators that are so good. If we went in there and tried to help, they would just roll their eyes, and we would just be in the way.
Yeah, we have an operations team that's taken ops to the next level for us. And so that's been a really big joy for us to be able to hand that off and see it flourish.
Yeah, if you want to scale up like that, you almost have to let go of a little bit here and there and have people you trust, and actually then trust them to do the job that you've hired them to do. Exactly. Do you guys, I used to deliver bread for Mrs. Baird's many moons ago.
Yeah.
As a college student, and there got to be a point where I could not eat another fried pie, because it's just like, oh, you're just eating it constantly, and for years I couldn't eat another fried pie. Do y'all still eat it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that you don't, because it's just, it's too good.
For this book, there's 25, I think there's maybe 30 homemade versions of Tiff's Treats recipes. And so we had to try them all out, and we were eating more cookies the past year than I've ever
Yeah,
eaten.
that was a lot when we were crafting the recipes. But even without that, we do taste tests a lot and new flavor tests. And so probably more, even when you're not feeling like it. But honestly, cookies are easy to love all the time. I think you can always eat them.
Is chocolate chip the biggest seller?
Oh yeah.
By far.
Yeah, that gooey chocolate chip. And is there something, on the radar maybe that's coming flavor wise that's different?
Well, we always run flavors of the month. So right now, today, in fact, is our first day of our Valentine's Day sprinkle cookie, which will be running all of February. So you can get that starting now. And then every month we'll release a new flavor, but I can't tell you what they are because it's a surprise.
And last thing, I always ask this when there's a book that has recipes in it. You built this huge business. Obviously, you don't want people to be able to like totally replicate it at home. Do you have to leave out like a little secret, fairy dust that gets sprinkled in? Do you have to leave out one little thing?
No, I wouldn't say leave it out, but you do have to formulate them differently for home because we're talking about smaller batch. So they're tweaked so that it is a home version of the Tiff's Treats recipe, but we're certainly not leaving anything out to make it less good. They're very, very good.
So they are tweaked Tiff's Treats. Got to say that one really slowly.
Versions, yes.
But it's never going to taste the same at home.
Well, it's difficult. Baking is not easy.
Yeah, and we notice not everyone has the consistent baking ovens as well. So it's not just the recipe, but the equipment at home versus, in a location is very different as far as consistency goes.
Well, thank you both for taking the time. I know that you've got this huge cookie empire that you're trying to oversee. So I know that time is valuable. Tiff and Leon Chen, it's actually Tiffany, but we just know her as Tiff, heading up Tiff's Treats there and keeping us all liking those warm, gooey cookies. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Much success, much continued success.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
so much.
much.
It's
Oh,
great
wait,
talking to you.
I need to wait. I've got to say this at the end too, because y'all have the book coming out. This new book, it's not just cookies, stories and recipes from the Tiff's Treats kitchen. That's coming out in April, right?
That's right.
All
You
right.
can get it now. You can get it now online anywhere.
So you can pre-order now, but it's
Yep.
coming out in April. So look for that in case you want to try some of these tweaked Tiff's Treats at home. Thanks to both of you.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
thank
much.
you.
Great talking to you.